Hello everybody, it's Electric and Philosophy, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite literature books of all time, and since it is being introduced in one of my classes, I think I might as well make a video on it for this channel. What we're going to be reading at, you ask? The Masque of the Red Death by Edgar Allan Poe, originally published in 1842 as The Masque of the Red Death, a fantasy. Part 1. Overview. Poe's story follows many traditions of Gothic fiction and is often analyzed as an allegory about the inevitability of death. Though some critics advise against an allegorical reading, the story focuses on a royal man named Prince Prospero, and the story shows Prospero's attempts to avoid a dangerous plague known as the Red Death. He does it by hiding in his abbey. Every room in his abbey is hosting a masquerade party with a prince and a few other nobles. In the midst of their revelry, a mysterious figure disguised as a Red Death victim enters and makes his way through each of the rooms. Prospero dies after confronting the stranger, whose costume proves to contain nothing tangible inside of it. The guests also die in return. Part 2. The Red Death. The Red Death's creation has been compared to many of the common diseases and plagues that slowly humans have come to fear. Many different interpretations have been presented, as well as attempts to identify the true nature of the titular disease. The disease's true origin has been compared to the swine flu and bubonic plague, also known as the Black Plague. The Black Plague spawned in the 1800s, a rare but serious bacterial infection that was transmitted by fleas and previous indistinguishable infections. The bubonic plague is one of 3 types of bacterial infection caused by Yersinia pestis. 1 to 7 days after exposure to the bacteria, flu-like symptoms will be taken in by the human body. Many days after, the body will develop large cysts and black spots, which are fatal if not treated by a plague doctor or a professional surgeon. How does the Red Death compare? In the story, a quote summarizes the meaning of the colors of the abbey. Arranged in a row from east to west, the 7 colored-coded rooms in the abbey are considered symbolic of the progression of life. The stages they represent are birth, blue; youth, purple; adolescence, green; adulthood, orange; old age, white; imminent death, violet; and death itself, black/scarlet. You see, death focuses on 2 colors: black, like the bubonic plague, and scarlet, much as in the Red Death. Much like in the story, people weren't sure of whether they should fear the Red Death. And like the bubonic plague, people weren't sure if they should check for symptoms or not because they didn't know what the exhibitions were. Surprisingly, bubonic plague and Red Death are 2 different things. In the story, the Red Death is described as causing sharp pains, sudden dizziness, and then profuse bleeding at the pores. The Black Plague, as we said, exhibits black holes and swells on the body, as well as extreme coughing and flu-like symptoms. In both history and Poe stories, the plagues both ended with fatal injury or straight-up death. Part 3. Symbolism. Let's start back with the plague itself. The Red Death symbolizes the inevitability of death. Although there is no specific disease with the exact symptoms described in the story, critics believe the disease's description has elements of tuberculosis, a disease which killed many of those close to Poe. It also brings forth memories of the Black Death, which populated much of Europe during the Middle Ages, as we said before. The castle represents mankind's efforts to prevent death. Regardless of money, economic wealth, social position, and rate, death arrives as an uninvited guest to all people in life. Prince Prospero symbolizes the sudden demise of feudalism. Prospero, inviting only wealthy landlords and ladies to his castle at the expense of peasants and commoners, resents the socio-economic divide between landowners and peasants that existed during the feudalistic period. It's definitely not a coincidence that the bubonic plague, which reduced the number of work and customers, led to a rise in labor and played an important role in ending the era of feudalism in Europe and around Europe. The ebony clock is a constant reminder of death. You can tell because in the story it truly symbolizes the inevitability of our own mortality and eventual demise at the hands of the hood-wearing skeleton we all call death. The revelers could not stop death's pendulum from swinging over their throats, nor could they prevent its ominous tones from tempering their enthusiasm during the party. Part 4. Conclusion. Overall, the story symbolizes our own mortality. Allan's story just couldn't help but center the symbolism on death and humans' ways of life. No mortal human can really understand death because the mysteries of what lies above and beyond the grave leave us dissatisfied. Much like this dissatisfaction, humans use God as an allegory for our so-called greatness. Originally, man created God in the image of the perfect human ruler, but in truth, we all forgot that fact and decided to stay that we wanted to be were instead created by God, and that He designed us with mortal parallels to our own choices. We don't decide justice or death, nor do we decide the afterlife. Our God does, and no matter what happens, we will never truly know where we end up. No matter what parallels we find in the story between the bubonic plague and the colors of the 7 rooms, all symbolizing human qualities, we cannot find catharsis in all the facts. No matter what we end up doing with ourselves, we can never truly be perfect. Our consumerism can fuel that hopelessness, but the good news is we don't need to find that meaning until it matters, because every human is not perfect, and we can't change that. So don't let yourself be downs in the time of age. So maybe you can leave this video knowing that our inevitable deaths are not only soon to come, but we're too good to let this stop from us fulfilling our dreams. Hey everybody, it's me, back. And today we're gonna, actually, this is the end of the Edgar Allan Poe video. Are you surprised? Don't think so, you probably just watched all of it. So, here's the topic for the next one. For the next video, we'll be talking about Jonathan Crane, also known as the Scarecrow of DC and the Dark Knight. See that soon, and hope you enjoyed this video here. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more of these amazing philosophy videos. I'll see you all later.